Hello everybody and welcome to the unboxing and review of the Impressionist Tarot by Icaro. I personally am a fan of art. I love art of pretty much all kinds, and I love the Impressionist movement. And it's artwork by Arturo Pica, which really, I'm gonna use, I guess they use the word artwork a little loosely, because these are paintings, but some, let's say the swords or the wands, of course they add in the swords that are not in the original painting. So I understand that it was kind of like curated and edited by Corinne Kenner and Arturo Pica. All right, so let's get started. So this is the box, right? I do love this gold foil on top, and it's got the frame on the sides, kind of like almost like a framed canvas, which I think it's just a nice touch. And it opens up like this with just a magnetic flap. Then you have this beautiful painting, and then you've got a ribbon, which I truly appreciate. Now, the state of this box is not a reflection on Los Garabello. I've never had an issue of any of their packaging. And also I didn't buy this directly from Los Garabello online. I actually bought it at a local shop here close to me. So when I opened the box, it kind of came already like this. All the cards are good. Nothing is damaged except the box. And honestly, the box is pretty big, where I'm not gonna keep the cards in the box. So this to me is not a big issue, and it's really, again, not a reflection on Los Garabello, because I truly never had an issue with any packaging except for this one. Okay, so without further ado, let's close this up and let's get started. So here we have the book. It's a really good book, not super thick, but you get enough information. And I do love how there's a quote by Vincent van Gogh. There's a lot of Vincent van Gogh heavy imagery on here, which I'm a huge fan of Vincent van Gogh, so I love that. And of course, he's kind of like, the father of Impressionism. So I love that it's very heavy. But of course, you have Edouard Manet and Claude Monet and Pierre-Auguste Renoir, and you have like different artists, different Impressionist artists. So let's get into the book. Love this, Colors of Light, appreciate that very much. The official guide to the Impressionist Tarot. Then you have introduction of the authors, about the author and about the artist, the guide that kind of put it together. You have your introduction, the art of Impressionism, a bit of a history lesson almost. The Impressionists, kind of like the artists on here, and then you have the Post-Impressionists, also talking about the artists, and making an impression, how to read the Impressionist Tarot. I really like this because I've already kind of flipped through this deck a little bit. Of course, as you see, there's no plastic around it because I already took it out. I would not recommend this for like a beginner. It's more for intermediates and advanced. Like, it's not a tarot, it's a really good deck, and I think it's really well done. But you would need this. I feel like once I start working with it, I'm going to rely a lot on the book to understand what the deck is trying to say, what it means beyond the tarot, what the Impressionist Tarot is trying to say to me. And then I'll get more comfortable with it, and I'll just kind of like put the book aside. But when I first start, I'm going to be definitely relying on the book. So you get a card spread. I love this, the Gallery of Dreams, and you have like 10 card spread. That's a lot. But it's almost like the Impressionist Tarot spread. It's almost like its own version of the Celtic Cross in some way. Then you have down here, you have the advice card, which I guess is a card a day kind of thing. And you go directly into the Major Arcana. Let me put this aside. So you go into the Major Arcana. Here's the first impressions, inspiration. So it explains which art it was inspired by and why it looks the way it does and all that. And I'm gonna flip through the whole deck so we can take a look at that. You also get a full color depiction, and then you get more information. So let's take a look at the magician, for example. You get a quote by the artist. You have your first impressions. Then you have the inspiration, the artwork, and what the artwork is called, which I love that it's called The Magician of Hiva-Oa in 1902 by Paul Gauguin. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, I hope so. And then you flip it, and then you have the illumination, so it's kind of like more of a meaning. You have the interpretation, you have an insight. So there's actually quite a few different things. So the insight is like the keywords upright and reversed. You have the interpretation, what it means, and then the illumination, what it corresponds to. So the card corresponds to Mercury, the messenger of God, who's also known as Hermes, and then kind of goes more into that. Same for the High Priestess. It goes through the whole thing. And as you can see, it's a little bit divided by this burgundy red color. And then the white part is the minor arcana. What I love too about this is that, yes, the minor arcana, you have a smaller depiction of the art, but you still get all the breakdown. It still has pretty much like the same love and attention that the major arcana has, right? You still have your quote, you still have your first impressions, your inspiration, illumination, interpretation, and your insight. So I love that. I love when the minor arcana kind of gets the same love. So then that's pretty much it for the whole thing. You kind of get 2 pages for pretty much each card. Towards the end here, you have your final card and then just a conclusion. So that's your book. Not a bad book, I would say. All right, so let's get to the cards. I will be showing you guys all of them, all 78 of them. So if you don't want to see all of them, you can skip ahead, you can jump around, but I will be showing you all of them. Okay, so we all know this card. Maybe you don't, but Lo Scarabeo usually always puts this card in here. Tarosophy, Tarot Associations Worldwide, they're usually trying to sell you a membership for the Tarot Association. I don't have it, but it sounds pretty cool. If you can afford it, go for it. Sounds kind of fun. And of course, you have your title card, the Impressionist Tarot by Lo Scarabeo. And then you have your backs, which I actually find this to be clever because you have almost like where it would hang. And then you have like the behind of the canvas. Right here is this beautiful frame, kind of like a golden frame. And then what it looks like behind it. So all the backs are pretty much the same. And the cards are pretty flexible. They're not the greatest card stock, but honestly, they're not bad either. A flexible deck does not bother me personally. It is not a deal breaker. I actually kind of like it because I tend to be like a riffle shuffler. So I tend to be like, I split the deck and then I do like this movement. So a more flexible deck doesn't really hurt my hands. Whereas a more stiff, thick deck can. All right. So here we have the Fool. Now, another thing that I wouldn't really recommend this for a beginner is because there is no title on any of them. They're all just numbers and little symbols on them. So this would be the Fool, number 0. We got the Magician, the High Priestess. So like if you're not very, very familiar with the numbers, you would be a little bit maybe confused, right? You have the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, where maybe, you know, if you're immediately looking at the black and white columns here, you could confuse it with the High Priestess, because usually the black and white columns are more associated with the High Priestess, which here we still do have the black and white, but it's more in the leaves and it's more subtle than these columns. You got the Lovers. You know, I've seen like other like medieval art decks. I know Impressionism is not medieval, but I've seen other like artworks. I've seen Renaissance tarots that are inspired by, and they're very white, which is, I mean, it is what it is, right? It's the artwork of the time. So I'm not judging the tarot because it's, you know, if you're inspired by it, by the Renaissance paintings or the Impressionist paintings, of course they're very white. It was just, unfortunately, the times. But this one, we see that in the Lovers, we see it in the High Priestess, we see it in the Magician. There are people of color here, which I very, very much appreciate. We've got some animals here too. This will be the Death card. So again, it doesn't look like your traditional quote unquote tarot death card, right? But that's okay. It's an Impressionist tarot. So here we've got Temperance. This actually personally is one of my favorite paintings. I think it's called the Bartender or something like that. I can't fully remember. Of course the book will tell me, but can't fully remember it. So this is the Devil. This tower is gorgeous. And I love the brush strokes. Again, very Impressionist, obviously, very Van Gogh. And you have your Starry Night background for the star card. You have the moon. And then the sun, which is our cover art. Judgment. And then the world is the Eiffel Tower, which I think is kind of interesting. I know Impressionist movement was, I think it began in France, maybe even more specifically in Paris. So you've got the Two of Cups. I love these clouds because I feel like every time you pull this card, you can kind of find something a little bit different in the clouds. The clouds are very, very expressive. So you've got your Three of Cups, a little pippish. Four of Cups, pretty traditional, I would say. Your Five of Cups. The Six. I like the Seven of Cups. It's really interesting. You got the guy sleeping and then this boat, you know, as if it was like his dream or something. The Eight of Cups. The Nine. And the Ten of Cups. It's so beautiful. And then you've got your Page, which as you can see, again, there's no title. It's identified by this little helmet as the Knight. Sorry, as the Page. The little helmet is the Page. The horse head is the Knight. And then this crown is the Queen. And then you have the King. King of Cups. So again, like I said, it's no titles, just numbers and symbols. So this would be the Ace of Pentacles, or discs, however you like to call it. Seven of Pentacles. You've got your Eight of Pentacles. Working, right? The grind. Nine of Pentacles. And the Ten of Pentacles. You have your Page. The Knight. The Queen. And the King. He's like the ballet master or something. I like that. Of course, this is the Ace of Wands. The Two of Wands. The Three. So as you can see, the wands are identified by this kind of wand symbol. And of course you have the numbers on the bottom. Seven of Wands and the Eight of Wands. Seven of Wands is a little confusing to me. And I think the Eight of Wands is a little confusing as well, but you know, it is what it is. And personally, I would actually switch the Nine of Wands for the Ten of Wands. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you're looking at it and going, that's obvious, I see it. For me, this to me has more of a Ten of Wands feeling. This one has more of a Nine of Wands feeling. But you know what? No big deal. It's not a deal breaker for me. And I'm actually very excited to work with this deck and alongside the book. I feel like when I'm going to be working with this deck personally, I'm going to rely heavily on the book at first, until I get very comfortable with, you know, what these cards mean and what they really represent. And maybe I'll never agree, and that's okay. That's the point of getting like a tarot deck is the Ace of Swords, is you get to have your own experience with it. You get to have your own kind of intimate relationship with the deck. Three of Swords. Love that it's a sunflower. This is also one of my favorite paintings by Van Gogh. You got your 5 of Swords, your 6 of Swords, and of course you have your page, which is Van Gogh himself. The Knight of Swords, the Queen, and finally the King of Swords. Here are the backs one more time, just kind of like behind the canvas kind of energy. So this deck is very colorful, very expressive, of course it is, very impressionist. That's the point of the impressionist movement. I'm very happy I have it. I'm very glad I have this deck. I'm excited to work with it and see what the book and what the images bring out during a reading and how well it reads. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this unboxing and review of the Impressionist Tarot by Corinne Kenner and Arturo Pica. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.